Welcome back to Cooking with Bobbi Joe. I'm Bobbi Joe's mom, and today we're doing a donut experiment with sugar-free versus sugar. Bobbi Joe isn't in the kitchen with us today because anytime I cook with sugar substitutes, the kitchen is off limits to the dogs. I'd hate to accidentally spill or drop something, and then they get into it before I can get it cleaned up. For those of you that aren't aware, sugar substitutes can be deadly to dogs, so if you have them in your house, always keep them in a cabinet or pantry locked away where the dogs can't get to them. And never ever feed your dogs anything with sugar substitutes in it. So I'm going to start by telling you my donut story. A couple of weeks ago, I decided to experiment with making my own donuts. I spent all day in the kitchen waiting for the dough to rise, then cutting it out into donuts and waiting for those to rise. I also had other things going on in the kitchen too, since we were getting a menu ready for the Atmos Scenic City Shootout. I finally fried up the donuts that evening, glazed them, and they were ready for taste testing. The donuts were fine straight out of the frying pan, but the next morning they were very difficult to chew, so they failed my donut expectations. So I was on FaceTime with my grandma explaining how I spent the whole day doing these donuts and they just didn't pass the next day test. So then she said, "All you need's a can of biscuits." I said, "What? A can of biscuits?" She says, "Yeah, all you need is to go buy you a cheap can of biscuits, use that as the dough, and they are just as good as Krispy Kreme." Now, to be honest, y'all, I was very skeptical about this, but when I went to the grocery store on Friday, I added canned biscuits to my list, even though I never cook canned biscuits. Also, I want y'all to know the stores in Tennessee were crazy on Friday because of the coronavirus scare. People are buying up all the beans, rice, canned goods. And believe it or not, canned biscuits are apparently a survival food because all they had left on the shelf was a couple of cans of Pillsbury Flaky Layer biscuits. I wanted just the plain, but figured I'd give those a try. Now, I could see biscuits being a survival food, but I just don't see surviving on canned biscuits. But maybe they know this donut recipe my grandma is talking about, and I can see donuts being a survival food. Okay, so now we will get to how you make the donuts out of canned biscuits. I have some people in my family that can't have sugar, so I decided to see how the sugar-free glaze would taste on the donuts. I have to admit, cooking with sugar substitutes has been a challenge. I think my problem is I expect it to look or taste exactly like it does with sugar products. I started out with sugar chocolate glaze before I decided to give the sugar-free a try too. The glaze is simple to make. I use 3/4 a cup of powdered sugar, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk, and 2 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa. All you do is sift the powdered sugar and cocoa together, then you add in the vanilla extract and the milk and mix until smooth. You can adjust the thickness by adding more or less milk. If it gets too thin, you can add a little more sifted powdered sugar to thicken it up a little more. I never add all the milk to start with, I just do a little at a time until I get the consistency I'm looking for. Then you do the exact same thing for the sugar-free glaze, except you use your sugar substitute instead of the regular powdered sugar. You heat your oil, you roll out each biscuit, and you cut a hole in it. If you want them to be perfect, you can take your time and make sure everything is rolled into a perfect circle. I did not do that. I also use the salt shaker lid to cut out the holes. You can use anything you have on hand if you don't have a donut cutter. A water or Coke bottle lid works just fine too. Don't throw out the donut holes because those can be fried up too. When the oil is hot enough, you can put your donuts in. I tested the oil with a donut hole just to make sure it wasn't too hot but hot enough to fry. You can also use a cooking thermometer if you have one. It needs to be around 375 degrees before you start frying up your donuts. You don't want your oil too hot because the donuts will turn brown too quickly before the inside is done. And I put about 3 donuts in at a time. And you can use a wooden spoon and use the end of it to flip the donuts. They don't have to cook long, just long enough for each side to get golden brown. I drained them on a rack. I just put my cake cooling racks out and I put parchment paper underneath. Typically, I would just put the donut face down in the glaze, but these are made with flaky layer biscuits which can fall apart easily while hot, so I got my basting brush out and I put the glaze on that way. You continue this until all of the donuts and donut holes have been cooked. I did half sugar-free glaze and the other half sugar glazed. I can't say that the sugar-free glazed donuts are sugar-free because on the can it states that the biscuits have 2 grams of sugar. Now I'm sure you can find sugar-free biscuit dough to use to make these completely sugar-free. But the glaze is sugar-free. So we have the sugar-free glazed donuts have 2 grams of sugar versus 32 grams of sugar in the donuts that have the regular sugar glaze. I also decided to do some donuts dipped in cinnamon sugar. All you do is put some cinnamon and sugar in a dish mixed together. Then you do the same thing with your sugar substitute. This side is the sugar-free glaze. This side is the one made with regular confectioner sugar. Now, these do look better on the left than they do on the right, but I will tell you they taste pretty good. This side does taste really good. I was surprised how good it tastes. Now, I'm not sure how the sugar substitute does overnight. I'm not sure if there's going to be any problems with the donut the next morning, so I guess we'll find out tomorrow. I know these do well overnight. You can have them again the next day. And then I made cinnamon sugar. So these are made with regular sugar. These are made with a sugar substitute. Now the difference is this is a much finer sugar than this is. You can see the sugar granules are a lot bigger on the sugar substitute. But I'm going to try. I haven't tried. Now on these, I'll go back to these real quick. On these, I tried a donut hole with each. And that's how I know this side tastes just as good as this side. Looks better on this side, but I'm telling you, those are really good. Not sure how they'll be tomorrow, though. Now on this side, I haven't tried anything yet, so I'm fixing to taste test. And I'm just taste testing donut holes because I don't need to be eating whole donuts. So I pretty much know that the sugar side's going to be good. Sugar's always good. These, they didn't stick to it as well because the the granules are much larger than regular sugar, but we'll see how they taste. Those are good. Like on this side, these have 2 grams of sugar. And the only reason it has 2 grams of sugar is because the biscuits had 2 grams of sugar. It said on the can there was 2 grams of sugar in the canned biscuits. So there's 2 grams of sugar in this, no grams of sugar in the glaze. This side, we got 2 grams of sugar in the biscuit, and we have 30 grams of sugar in the glaze. So we're looking at 32 grams of sugar in this one compared to this one. And basically over here, this is sugar-free except for the 2 grams in the biscuit mix. You know, it is a good alternative for somebody who's not able to eat the sugar and wants something sweet. And I would also suggest looking, and maybe there are some biscuit mixes that have no sugar. I wasn't planning on trying sugar-free until I got to looking in my cabinet and saw the sugar substitute. So I said, well, let me try a sugar-free glaze and see how that turns out. But this is what we've got. They're all really good. I do like this side better, but this is definitely something I would not, if you're not able to eat sugar, I would definitely say that. I probably should be eating this more than this, and I might lose some weight. I know this video is longer than most of our videos, but I wanted y'all to get the full review of sugar-free versus sugar glazed donuts. So there you go, Grandma's super easy homemade donuts. I recommend the flaky layered biscuits for a light and soft donut, but Grandma says I gotta go buy just plain old cheap canned biscuits for the best results. I will wait a few months before trying this again because we really don't need to be eating donuts daily. I will put the recipe in the video description. I know it looks like we eat junk all the time from the videos, but we actually eat fairly healthy. We give most of the desserts and candy we make from the videos away. I'm going to be adding some healthy videos into the mix soon though. Well, I hope you liked our video. Join us next time with Bobbi Jo for some drool-worthy bacon salmon dog treats. Until next time, have a very blessed week.